Hey everybody, welcome to MandoLessons Live. My name is Baron Collins Hill. I hope you're all doing great. Hope I'm coming through loud and clear. I had to do a little mic and seat adjustment there in the middle. But happy Saturday to everyone, wherever and whenever you are. I'm coming to you live from Oregon, so it's 10 a.m. here. And we've got a Pennsylvania, California, Pennsylvania again, Philadelphia, Georgia, Tennessee, UK, Belfast, Ireland, Manitoba, Canada, North Carolina, Indiana, Michigan, London, Barcelona, very cool, Minnesota, California, Fullerton, California, former home of Fender Musical Instrument Company. Benjamin Foss coming in from Maine, setting up a 1913 A2 while tuning in. Very cool. Nashville, Southern California, Northeast Washington. Still a little snow. Very cool. London. Awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you're all doing well. Let me know in the chat if this is your first time. And also let me know in the chat what's your favorite tune or song of the moment. I love hearing what everybody's working on. Arizona, good to have you here. And the way these work, if you haven't been before, welcome. And the way these work is it's just pretty much an hour-ish of Q&A. So if you got questions about how to play the mandolin or music or tunes, I'm happy to do my best to answer them. I'm happy to take tune requests as long as they're in the public domain and not copyrighted, and I know them and or can remember them off the top of my head. I get 10 points because I just dropped my own pick. If you drop your pick, you get extra points because it means you're not gripping it too hard. So that first tune that I played there was a kind of a spicy way to start my day. Didn't wake up all that long ago, but that's Devil's Dream. A classic fiddle tune from the old-time tradition that also ends up in... I've heard Irish versions of it. Maybe it's originally an Irish tune for all I know. Ends up in bluegrass all over the place. We're going to do a little jamming on that tune at the end of the hour. But all right, we got more tuning in. Oh, Azalea Waltz. It's a lovely tune. I wish I could remember how that one went. Maybe I'll play something a little slower just to warm up a little bit more here. But throw out some questions and I'll start answering them. Scottish, cool. little bit of Whiskey Before Breakfast in the wrong key, the key of G, but it works out pretty well. There's a question in there of what instrument I'm playing. I am playing a 10-string mandolin from Lawrence Smart over in Idaho. Really been enjoying this thing, and that's actually what made me start playing this tune in the key of G. But it totally works on a regular mandolin. You just start on your, rather than starting on your D string, you start on your G string. And then you might have to switch around a little bit because you can't go that goes too low unless you have a low C string like me. But this instrument is tuned C, G, D, A, E. So it's a mandolin with a low C, and it's got a 16-inch scale like a mandola. And it's fun, and it's nice to play tunes in different keys. Whiskey Before Breakfast is a great tune, one of my all-time favorites. One of the first tunes I ever learned, but it's nice to play in G too. It's a little more mellow down there. Alright, I'll catch up with the chat here a little bit and then jump into some of these questions. Alright. Azalea Waltz, that's about where I left off. Ben Foss says it's Scottish. Devil's Dream is originally a Scottish tune, which is good to know. Good info from Benjamin. Working on Pig Ankle Rag. It's a great tune that I can never remember how it starts. Hey James, good to see ya. Dan, Ant-Man has a question. Approaching a tune, how do you go from melody to arrangement? Well, I think there's a couple things that are really helpful to know. One is you got to know the melody. And then two is you got to know the chords. That way you can at least have the bare bones of, if you're playing with someone else, that means you can play the chords while they're playing the melody, and you can play the melody while they're playing the chords. And it also will give you a lot of information about other strings and double stops and notes that you can hit if you're just playing on your own. So I'm going to switch to regular old mandolin here. If you're playing Whiskey Before Breakfast, knowing the tune, and knowing the chords, D, G, D, A, D, G, D, A, D, is going to help you when it comes to playing double stops. D, G, D, A, D, G, D, A, D. A little sloppy, trying to do both of those at the same time and say what chords are happening. But that'll really help you get some of those kind of double stops in. And then in terms of arrangement can mean any number of things. But often it'll have like maybe an intro and an outro, so you can do, just like a little kind of intro vamp like I did with Whiskey Before Breakfast in D. It could be something like, so it's just 7th fret and open 7th fret on the G, open D, hammer on from 6 to 7, and then 6, 4, 6, hammer to 7, 6, 4, one more time, and then one more time, maybe do 7, 6, 4, for a G chord, open G, open D, and then you can jump into the tune, so it'd be like, then you're into the melody, and then you can start thinking about kind of like story arc, if you will, of like, starting out kind of sweet. And then next time you come through the tune, build it up a little bit. Next time, Little melodic variation, double stops. Next time you're really soloing, and then maybe do a big, from like kind of the big crescendo at the top. Back into nice mellow. To end it, or bring it back up. Try to build in some dynamics in there. You can throw in a little kind of outro tag. Whatever it may be, that's where you can get a little fancy. Now, in terms of like intros and outros and chord substitutions and things like that, that might leave some folks behind if you're playing in like a regular old classic bluegrass or old time jam. But if you've got a band and you want to work on some of that stuff, that's a great opportunity to throw some of that stuff out there. Great question. What mandolin was I playing? That was the Lawrence Smart 10-string CGDAE Mandolin. Very fun. Cool, I'm glad everybody liked that mellow version of Whiskey Before Breakfast. Awesome. Linda's working on Gravel Walk, a great tune that I, once again, can never remember how it goes. What shapes do you use most for minor chords? I use a lot of 2-string chords. So for E minor, I might use 4 and 2. So I'll make a little progression out of E minor, A minor, and D minor. So it might be like... little like kind of double stop ideas. We got 4 and 2. It's all in the G and D strings. 4 and 2 is an E and a B and an E. And then 5 and 2 is C and E. Then 7 and 3 is D and F. So it's little like kind of partial chords. Or you can make them a little more full. You can use a classic kind of 2-finger chord. E minor, open, 2-2 open. A minor, 2-2-3, and you can leave the E string open if you want. And then D minor, you can do 2-3-5, and then not play the E string. There's lots of options. If you go to Mandolin Cafe, they have a nice little chord finder that gives you a bunch of different options for minor, for all chords. But those are kind of what I tend to do mostly. I tend to play a lot of 3-string and 2-string chords. So if you're familiar with how to build chords using like the 1st, 3rd, and 5th of a scale, and for minor it's 1 flat 3 5, then you can say, okay, well I need a D minor. Here's a D on the 7th fret of my G string, and here's an F on my D string, and then here's an open A. And you say, well that's nice, but maybe what if I just play those lower 2 strings? Etc. Hope that's helpful. All right, Lewis has got his eye on an Ellis. Is it that one with the hummingbird on it? Recently, I saw some pictures of a Ellis mandolin that Tom just finished building. That maybe I can't remember where it showed up. I'll not guess for the sake of Lewis if he's keeping his eyes out or he's got his eye on it. But beautiful inlay on the headstock. Tom does great inlay. So Ellis, the guy that built this mandolin, does a lot of inlay for most, like a lot of the big American guitar and mandolin companies. He runs a CNC shop that does all this inlay, and he does also some really beautiful custom inlay on some of his own mandolins. And he's had one with a beautiful hummingbird on it that is just very eye-catching. So I don't know if that's the one Lewis is talking about, but what do you think are the features that make a mandolin of that class worth the cost? That is a great question. You know, that's kind of... There's definitely a law of, like, diminishing returns. You know, you can get a $500 mandolin, and I have a video out there on $500 versus $1,000, or $50 versus $500 versus $5,000 mandolin. This is the upper end of that category. I think they're even more expensive. I bought this 12 years ago now, so they're even more expensive than they were back then. But, you know, I think on the low end, you know, you get a $50 mandolin, and when I made that video of 50 versus 500 versus 5,000, the first $50 mandolin that I got in the mail, the top was totally sunken in, unplayable, had to send it back. You know, I got a return on, you know, they took it back and they sent me another one that worked a little better. But I had to sit there and kind of set it up on my own, which I know from playing for 20 years, I know how to set instruments up without getting kind of too into the details. But in order to really get something to play really kind of to its best ability, you got to take it in to somebody who really knows what they're doing. They're going to get the tools out, going to fit the bridge to the top of the instrument, get the nut and the saddle just right, and kind of dial everything in. Might need a fret level. So that's kind of what you're going to get with a $50 mandolin, is you never really know. And then even at its best, not all solid wood. So it's, you know, there are a lot of instruments that aren't solid wood that sound all right, but once you get into like the $500 range, then you're talking about like the Kentucky KM 150, which is all solid wood. Still like a factory-made instrument, but I think that's sort of my go-to. If you have $500 budget on a mandolin, that's a great way to go. But still, there's, you know, so as you go up, there's definitely, you know, like, is a $5,000 mandolin 10 times better than a $500 mandolin? Not really, no. You know, they both are a mandolin. They both play music. They both stay in tune. They both do all the things a mandolin should do. I think there's a lot of kind of smaller things that I enjoy about this mandolin. You know, I've talked to Tom a bunch about the mandolin in specifics, and he's done work on the mandolin in the past, and that's sort of part of what you get from a small shop experience, is you get that sort of level of not only build quality, like this thing, the fit and finish of just like how it looks is top notch. It doesn't, like, you know, there's always going to be little flaws in things, but on something like this is about as clean as they come. I've, of course, dinged it up plenty over the last 12 years. But, you know, there's also just like, you know, if you're spending, like for a while, I was spending 8 hours a day playing mandolin. I still play a lot of mandolin every day. And, you know, when you're putting that kind of time and energy into something, it can make sense, you know, like over the years, you know, you figure out like, oh, it's like $5 a day to play 8 hours a day. You can kind of think of it that way. And there's nothing wrong with the less expensive instruments, but for me, it made sense. You know, this is a really dependable mandolin. It's never like, you know, like let me down on a gig in a way where like a less expensive instrument might have had other issues. And it's just, I think this, you know, the sound and the playability are top notch, really easy to play. And, you know, that said, you know, when you get in $1,000 worth of instruments, you definitely, it's not a kind of decision you can take lightly, but to each their own. It's really personal choice. You can definitely discuss it ad nauseum on the forums and stuff like that. But yeah, Denise asks, hey William, good to have you here from Michigan. Denise asks, what tune did you play before Whiskey Before Breakfast? I think I was just noodling. Just kind of playing some little like kind of chords while I tried to figure out a tune that I should play. Oh, okay, I missed a question from Vandana. Apologies if I'm not getting your name correctly, from India. Very cool. Tips on tremolo. So, start with just an open string. There's a couple things going on. One is you want to think about how far into the string your pick is. You know, if you're way down in here, that's going to make it impossible really to actually get the pick to go back and forth. So you really want to be just on the top of the string. Another thing is the angle of your pick. So you want it to be angled down a little bit so that if you're looking down, the left edge of the pick goes through the string first. A little hard to see on this. Let's see if I can. So rather than going like straight through the string like this, it's going to be tipped, so it kind of rolls over the string a little bit. That comes a little bit from your right hand, but mostly from your left, the angle in your left hand of the neck. So the pick is parallel to the floor, but the neck is tipped up a little bit. You're not going too deep into the strings. Stay nice and relaxed. Start out super slow. See if you can go that fast. It's like kind of a fast eighth note pattern. Doesn't really sound like tremolo. But when you're here, make sure you're nice and relaxed. Roll your shoulders, whatever you need to do. You speed up a little bit. Relax again. You're naturally going to tense up as you do this. So just remember to constantly relax. Speed up a little bit. And relax. Speed up a little bit. And relax. Maybe start moving your left hand around a little just to make it more interesting. Just really nice, slow. Scale parts. See if you can get the notes to kind of swell in, so you get like yeah, 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 yeah. And that comes from volume in your right hand, as well as like the speed of the tremolo. So you can go. All of those little intricacies will add up to a nice kind of soulful tremolo sound. Where do you get these tunes? I get them from playing with my friends. I've been playing at places like Maine Fiddle Camp with people like Benjamin Foss for, what is it now? It would have been like 12 or 13 or 14 years. And going out to Irish sessions and old time jams and bluegrass jams and all that sort of stuff. There are definitely books. There's books like the Mandolin Picker's Fake Book. You can also just look at my website, MandoLessons.com, where I've got hundreds of tunes waiting to be learned. You can look at websites like thesession.org if you're into Irish music. And they're out there. There's more tunes than anyone could ever learn. I just kind of follow my own interest. I hear a tune I like, and if I don't know what it is, I ask somebody, hey, what's the name of that tune? Write it down, go home, and look it up, find it on a recording, or learn it from them if they want to teach it to me. And off you go, you got a new tune. New to the mandolin, been playing guitar for a while. Can you do finger picking on the mandolin? You can, but it's not very common. The strings are so short and the tension is so high and there's so many strings that you can't get a whole lot of volume. I haven't put a lot of practice into it, but I'm sure you can get somewhere. But, you know, I think a lot of the way you mostly hear mandolin played is with a pick. So you can get those nice, clean, fast melody runs. But, yeah, you could definitely try out finger picking, see what you come up with. It could be a great sound. Parking Lot Picker Songbook is a great one as well. Catching up with the chat here. Coming from guitar, but don't want to play mandolin like a guitar. Great. What are some guitar-y things that aren't really mandolin things that you should avoid? That's a good question. You know, I think it'll be a natural process. I wouldn't worry too much. You know, I think there's a lot of benefit in a lot of ways. You know, you've played guitar, so you know how to hold a pick, assuming you were playing with a pick on a guitar. You kind of know the idea of how strings work, how frets work, you know, hand position. I think maybe a big thing with cutting from guitar to mandolin is the left hand. It's all much more close quarters. So on a guitar, it's like one finger per fret, so you'd be doing like... But on mandolin, the fingering is 2 frets per finger. So it'd be like 2, 4, 6, 7, 6, 4, 2. That's the big kind of technical thing. I would say, use what you know on guitar. Certainly doesn't hurt. But then also listen to a lot of mandolin players, and you'll hear what mandolin players are doing. What is it that drew you to the mandolin in the first place? Was it a particular musician? Listen to a lot of their recordings, see what mandolins are doing. Like if you're into bluegrass, you hear that kind of chop sound, and really emulate what it is that drew you to the mandolin in the first place, rather than, trying to get the sounds on the guitar out of a mandolin, because they're very different instruments. And I think that'll get you a long way. Hope that helps. Awesome. Linda was working on Gravel Walk. Kim and Charles says, working on St. Anne's Reel. When I try and speed it up, I'm having trouble coordinating my left and right hands to hit the right strings at the same time. What can you suggest? My suggestion is, I have some lessons on my website called, there's one like How to Play Faster in the Technique and Fundamentals section. But I think a big thing is, find that spot where you can play comfortably and not have that left-right hand coordination mix up. St. Anne's Reel. I don't know if this is it, but say, okay, that's as fast as I can play it, and then find yourself a metronome, whether it's an app or a real live metronome, and make it go somehow. Say, okay, that's as fast as I can play it. And play it a couple times through. Don't just play like one time A-A-B-B and say, I got it. Say, okay, well, I'm at 80 beats per minute here on the old phone app metronome. And then say, see if we can do 85. It's not even going to feel all that much different. Then say, okay, if I'm still feeling nice and if at that point you're starting to tense up, stay with that tempo for a little while and say, okay, well, let's see, can I kind of relax while I'm playing? Then go up maybe to 90. Still not that much different, but it's much more preferable to do little chunks than to say, okay, I've got 90, let's go to 110. Because then there's too much of a jump there, and you're immediately going to tense up, and you're going to be less aware of what's changing in your technique. So figure out where your little where your spot is that you can play comfortably, and then gradually work up from there. Awesome. Ant-Man is starting or started last Monday a tenor guitar cigar box build. That's very cool. Those are fun. I hear you, Lewis, he says, my Weber plays and sounds good, and those are great mandolins. Torn on moving up to an Ellis. Yeah, it's the constant thing. Mandolin acquisition syndrome. The grass is always greener, and that may or may not be true. But it's especially if you can get out and actually spend some time with a perspective instrument. That's a great idea. A lot of shops will do like 48-hour trial periods, and all you're out is shipping if you try it and don't like it. I don't know if that one was from Music Emporium that got that Hummingbird Ellis, but anyway, if that's the one you're looking at, that's cool. And I've definitely, that's what I did with this Smart. I got this from the Music Emporium, and I looked at it for a long time, and I talked to Jordan at the Music Emporium, who's great, and he sent me a recording of it, and I was like, oh, that's an amazing instrument. I just don't know. And then I thought, I'm just gonna get it. They have like a 48-hour trial period if you're serious. You can get it, and it would have been $100 or so to get this thing into my hands for a weekend and ship it back if I didn't like it. And that's a lot of money to kind of throw into a potential thing, but it's it's cheaper than like buying a plane ticket to Massachusetts and getting to play it in person. I got to play it in my own space. Sometimes you go into a music store, and especially now when a lot of music stores are just kind of online only. You go into a music store and you're surrounded by, well, it kind of looks like this, but playing an instrument in the space you're used to playing it in with the instrument that is really beneficial. And it's it's kind of a, it doesn't make sense to spend $100 to ship an instrument to you and back to the shop if you're not actually interested in buying it. So don't waste your own and the shop's time on that sort of thing. But I did that with this, and I was like, okay, had it for a weekend, really thought it through, and realized I loved it, and might not have had that opportunity, and might have just sat there saying, oh, okay, should I do this? So that is definitely if I don't know where you're seeing this Ellis Lewis, but if it's from a shop, or often sometimes private sellers will do the same thing. Can be an option. Is it worth taking a stock instrument like my Eastman 315 and upgrading something like the bridge or tuners? I don't have a whole lot of experience with that. In general, I don't upgrade tuners. The tuners on this thing, this is a high-end instrument, but it's before Ellis started using Waverleys, which are sort of like the real high-end things. And these are good tuners, but they're nothing special. They're elite. I don't know that they even make them anymore. But I've never had any trouble with them, unless if they're really sticky or you feel like the instrument isn't in tune, won't stay in tune. It probably isn't the tuners. It's probably, you can, like next time you take off the strings, Benjamin Foss here can probably tell you the right thing to drop a little oil in there or something. And please confirm, Ben, because that's not my area of expertise. But, and then, if feel like it's not staying in tune, so the oil maybe can loosen up the tuning machines to make them a little easier to move. If it's not staying in tune, often it's a problem at the nut or the bridge. Something's sticking. Maybe there's a slot that's cut in incorrectly, not wide enough, weird angle, things like that can make tuning tricky. But so I've never upgraded tuners on an instrument unless they were like old and totally falling apart. And with bridges, you can have heard people doing it and people talking about a great experience. The only time I've ever upgraded a bridge is when they're actually like broken. And actually some of the like the bridge on this mandolin, which I've had for years and years and years now, is actually broken. There's a little crack. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get it, but let's see. It's like kind of right in here. It's on this side though. Right in there in the top saddle of the bridge. It's actually cracked a little bit, but I haven't taken it to myself to get it fixed, or probably maybe just a new bridge at that point. I don't know if people repair bridge saddles. So yeah, it depends. I wouldn't put like as you said, where's that? If you have a $500 mandolin, don't put $500 worth of work into it, I would say. But maybe $100 on a setup and a new bridge could maybe be helpful. It's again a very personal choice. Keep the Weber and the Ellis. That's always fun. How often do you change strings? That's a great question. Not very often. Actually, the strings on this mandolin now are probably like 8 months plus old. Which, usually in regular times when I'm out teaching out in the world in person, I change my strings every couple months. There's people who change them like before every gig. I'm definitely not of that mind. I like the sound of like broken in strings. I like the sound of strings that are, a week to a couple months old, they kind of lose some of that sparkle off the top. I kind of like the little more mellow sound. But I don't usually leave them on for 8 months. These ones, every time I pick up this instrument, I'm like, oh, I should change the strings, and I just haven't got around to it. And it's another personal choice. I'm gonna keep burning through these so I can keep up. Mandolin luthier in Inland, California. I would say ask on Mandolin Cafe. I'm sure there's somebody. Greetings from Germany. Thanks for joining us. Game. Got some nice luthier tips coming in from Benjamin. Glad to hear it. What did you feel like when you were no longer beginner? When you were no longer a beginner player, and why? Oh, when did you feel like you were no longer a beginner? I think for me, like maybe getting beyond beginner is just sort of. I don't know exactly when. I was a year into playing mandolin. I'm pretty much entirely self-taught. I looked a lot of stuff up online. Kind of when I first got an instrument, and a year in, I was still playing G, C, and D chords and going G, then it's C, then it's I gotta get to the D, and back to that's another G, and working through 3-chord songs only in the key of G a year in because I was, maybe I had learned a tune, but not that many. I think getting to the point where I could keep up. I think kind of getting to the point where I could play with other people. And honestly, I think the quickest way to do that is to just get out there and kind of get out of your comfort zone and start playing in groups. Quarantine is a tricky time to say that, but it gives you a little time to really buckle down, get some, learn your chord shapes. So if somebody says, let's play an A, you actually know what chords those are. Learn a couple scales, learn a couple tunes. And then just get out there and play with people, and they'll pull you along and kind of push you to kind of have whatever skills are required to play in that particular scenario, which I think is a great way to not feel like a beginner if you can kind of keep up with those around you. Thank you, Andy, for the super chat. Happy first day of spring. Oh, yeah. Happy spring, everyone. Got any tunes that remind you of spring? Oh, that's a good question. Spring tunes. There's got to be something. How about Roaring River? If you're in somewhere that's got a lot of snow, maybe the snow's melting. It's time for some. This tune isn't on my website, but it's a tune I learned from my friend and bandmate Emily Jeffries. Who's a great old-time fiddler from Alabama, now living in Maine. And it sounds like this. There it is. It's a fun tune. I don't really know all that well how it goes, but it's a very upbeat spring tune. Nice. Joe just got the Fiddler's Fake book. That's definitely got a lot of good stuff in it. Hey man says, I know there was a loaded question. Okay, more luthier stuff that I'll leave to Ben. Do you think an hour of practice a day will lead to good progress? If you can put in an hour a day, that is more than most people. I'd say absolutely. That's more than I practice at this point, honestly. If you can put in an hour of solid practice a day, that is amazing. You don't need to do that. If you can do 10 minutes a day, that's amazing. Especially if it's every day. If if you're saying an hour a day, but really you kind of slack all week, and then you're like, oh, fine, I'll do it like an hour and a half on Saturday, or 2 hours on Saturday, rather than an hour every day. I would say aim for 20 minutes a day, and make sure you actually get those 20 minutes in. Even if it's like 5 minutes a day versus an hour on the weekend, take the shorter period more regularly. But if you can do an hour a day, that's amazing, and definitely will lead to great results, especially if you have some, like solid, if you're not practicing bad habits. Practice, it needs to be good practice. If you sit there kind of slumped over and go, just kind of noodle around and not think about stuff for an hour, that's not necessarily detrimental. It could be a little detrimental to like kind of general technique, but if you can sit there and actually kind of work on, even if you're just like playing tunes and being a little focused in on like how you're actually sounding for an hour, that's great. Any difference between A and F styles? A classic question. There are some differences. The F styles have the little scroll here and the different headstock and the points. There's a slightly different sound to an F style, but I think often you'll find more difference between either like a grade or price range of A style mandolins. If you have the option to choose between a $1,000 A style mandolin or a $2,000 F style, like in general, so the mandolins that Tom Ellis builds, the F styles are about twice as expensive, and that's true for most kind of comparative models from a single builder or company. F styles are about twice as expensive. Do they sound twice as good? Not to me. They sound a little different. You've got a heavier instrument because you have all the wood in those chunks. It's a different ratio of kind of vibrating airspace to the weight of the instrument. But often you'll find just as much variability between two identical mandolins from Tom Ellis, A styles, than you will necessarily from an A style and an F style. There's slight differences. That's kind of my take on it. You can definitely get into deep discussions about that on Mandolin Cafe. So, did we get a little update from Lewis? Oh, Lewis says it is the hummingbird from Music Emporium. I'd say call him. I mean, I'm not going to push you to make large purchases, but if you get it, send me a sound sample. I would call him up, ask Jordan. So Jordan Santiago is a friend of mine who works at Mandolin Cafe. Music Emporium. I asked him all kinds of questions about this Smart when I got it from him. Music Emporium is I got this mandolin from there. I got that Smart from there. I got a fretless banjo from there. I got a 6-string banjo from there. That's like my favorite kind of shop for new instruments is Music Emporium. Call him up, ask Jordan any questions you got. See if he'll probably make a video. You can get it for a trial. If you're serious about it, I would love to hear it. We can all live vicariously through you. All right, some good info from Ben on lubricating tuning machines. Are these instruments your personal instruments? They are. Yeah. I don't have all these instruments here to like show off. It's like my main hobby. My main hobby is learning to play new instruments. And quarantine has given me a lot of time to do that. So I have a lot of kind of various kinds of banjos, electric instruments, and I play a lot of them professionally. So they're also kind of like my business as well as my hobby. So it kind of turns into a room full of instruments. Not all of them I play. Like, for example, somebody was talking about an hour a day of practice, and I've been working on pedal steel over here, just above the mandolin and harmonium. But that's my current project, and it is hard. I wish I could put in an hour a day, but I get like 10 minutes in, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so tired. I haven't built up the stamina to really practice it all that much. But, you know, I think a combination of having it be my job and my hobby and being just kind of obsessed with instrument construction and different kinds of instruments and what different sounds are like, that leads me to a room full of instruments. I don't really have any other hobbies. You know, I'm not into yachts as well or anything like that. So it takes up all of my time and leads to rooms full of instruments. All right, catch up with the chat here. Ellis or a new Jeep? That's the question. Yeah, less maintenance on the Ellis. That is true. I have a very low maintenance car, but got a Honda Fit that's nothing fancy, and it's still more maintenance than a mandolin. Just bought my first mandolin a couple days ago from Daniel. Amazing. Welcome to the wonderful world of mandolin. Glad you've been enjoying the channel. Not first instrument, but it's very fun. Well, welcome. It's great to have you here. Happy picking on the new mandolin. Thank you, Edward, for the super chat as well. Thank you to everyone who throws in super chats or donates by PayPal or Venmo. There's links in the description if you're interested. There's also my Patreon membership page. There's tons of patrons here. Thank you all so much. You're the reason I'm able to do what I can do. I gotta burn through these last couple questions, and then we're gonna play some Devil's Dream. This has been a chatty one. I haven't been able to keep up. This is great. So apologies if these really fly by, but I'll do my best. Yep, Banjo Ben's great. David Benedict is great. Absolutely recommend. There's lots of good information out there. You know, it's all good. The more the merrier in my world. All right, let's see. F-style. Yeah, there is definitely a visual something to F-style mandolins. Practice makes perfect. If it's not bad technique that you do over and over again. Yep, that's great advice. Scroll envy is very true. That's lingo for people who want an F-style, is scroll envy. I'm an A-style guy. I don't know why. It's just how I am. Personally like F-style a little better sound, more expensive. Between me and the look and the sound, it was worth it. Yeah, absolutely. You know, if there's the combination of the sound and the look of a mandolin that's going to make you play it more, by all means, jump in there and get an F-style mandolin. Yeah, so there's something happening this weekend. The Down East Friends of Folk Arts, which is a festival that happens in Maine every year. It's online this time. Look up DEFFA, D-E-F-F-A Festival. This is from thing from Ben Foss. Look up the DEFFA Festival. There's a lot. I'm hoping to check out some things over there. It's free. Ben's doing a workshop on GDAD, a very fun tuning for mandolin at 4:30 Eastern. Gonna be a good time. I hope to see some of you over there. I hope to catch some workshops myself. All right, let's play a little Devil's Dream. And then send you all off to the DEFFA Festival. So the way this works is tune in the key of A. We won't play too fast. Classic, apparently originally Scottish tune. Now in all styles of music, really. And I'll play the melody, you play the chords. Then you could... Hey, Aaron, good to have you here. Glad you could jump in. The way this works, I'll play the melody, you play the chords. It's in the key of A. We'll swap back and forth. So then I'll play the chords while you play the melody. If you don't know Devil's Dream, this is a great time to just see if you can pick up a couple notes on the fly. And then if you do know the tune, but you've just kind of learned it recently, it's a great time to just play through it a bunch and get it under your fingers, build up that muscle memory. And if you've been playing Devil's Dream for years, see if you can push yourself by adding some double stops or some melodic variation or ornamentation, things like that. Just challenge yourself wherever you're at on these tunes with these play-alongs. So here we go. Devil's Dream. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll play the chords. Whoa, that wasn't the right one. A2. B. I'll take it. Whoa. Here you go. You take it. B. Let's both play the melody together. Here we go, one last time. Here we go, going out. The Devil's Dream, a classic. However you like to play it. It's nice slow. You know, people often really rip through that tune, but you hear a lot of that nice kind of melodic and harmonic movement when you play it a little slower. Well, thank you all so much for hanging out for the hour. Let's figure out what tune to do next week. Let's see. Let's try an old time tune. We did a couple, or no, wait. Well, that's kind of an old time tune. let's see. I'll look through my little list here, but also if you have any suggestions, throw them in the chat while I look and see if there's anything in my little list here. Oh, how about Behind the Haystack? That's a great classic tune. An awesome 3-part jig. A lot of people will know. Great to know when you get back out to those Irish sessions. Let's do Behind the Haystack. Sorry to kind of jump the gun on that one, but I think that'll be a fun one. Thank you all for tuning in. James, no, I think it's the same time as normal, isn't it? Did I do it early? I'm now trying to think. Did I do this an hour early? I might have. Wow. Is that my bad? Because James, you're totally irregular. I feel like you would... maybe I messed up the time. Sometimes I get confused because I often do office hours at 10. Does that mean I did the live stream at 10 instead of 11? Wow. Well, apologies for anyone that's tuning in late. Bummer. Well, whoops. Well, maybe I'll play another tune here just to hope. Yeah, sorry about that. Oh, daylight savings. Maybe that's what it is. It is the right time? I'm so confused. Wow. Yeah, I'm bad with daylight savings, so it easily could have been an hour earlier in London. This is normal. Okay, a couple people saying this is normal time. Glad to hear it. You had a little scare there. Oh, office hours is... Thank you, Lewis, for keeping me on track. Office hours is an hour later. Whew. All right, that was a nice little pick-me-up for the end of the live stream. Thank you all for tuning in. Sorry that you were an hour... I was an hour earlier than you expected, James, but you can always watch these in reverse. Not in reverse. After the fact by just... it takes YouTube a little while to kind of process the hour, but then you can always tune back in, and Denise does some awesome episode guides that you can find on my website with the little green button that says Live Q&A. Scroll down a little bit and look for the episode guide, and then you can sort of see what we talked about every week. This one, Denise does it manually, so it's not going to be immediate on this one, but all right, cool, excellent. Whew. All right, so yeah, I think in summation, thank you all for tuning in. Lewis, we all, no pressure, but we all eagerly await hearing whether you end up with that Ellis in your house, even briefly. If you do call him, say hi to Jordan for me. And yeah, hope that turns out well. Let's play a little Behind the Haystack next week. Hope you're all doing well, and see you in the next one. All right, bye-bye. Sorry for the hectic ending.